Hello, I'm Marian Newman and I'm chair and co-founder of the Federation of Nail Professionals. Now, we are all so aware of that allergy epidemic that we're facing right now. It's pretty bad in this country, but it is growing hugely in many other countries in the world as well. Now, there's a lot of talk about the allergies, the products, the cause, what to do, how to recognize it, what you have to do if you get an allergy as a professional, what you have to do if you suspect your clients have got an allergy. Lots and lots of talk, lots and lots of information on that. But I thought what would be really useful and really interesting is to look at the whole situation from a slightly different angle. And so I'm bringing you a series of stories in 2 separate videos. That you might need to sit down and have a cup of tea to watch them. They're absolutely fascinating because what I'm bringing to you are stories of 5 individuals that have had mental health issues. Now, we're bringing these videos during Mental Health Month, and so much is being talked in general about the importance of mental health and how to keep your mental health healthy. And so I don't think there's enough being talked about or addressed, or are people getting enough help with this situation and their own mental health. So I'm bringing you 5 stories that I think will resonate with a lot of you. And they're stories of hope. They're stories of how these people actually found their way through this tunnel. And they did find, if you like, the light at the end of the tunnel. So they're very personal stories. They're very hard hitting. They can be a little bit hard to watch or hard to listen to. But I think a lot of you will understand and will recognize these stories. So first of all, we start with somebody who didn't have any allergies. She had no allergies, and her clients didn't have any allergies. But what was happening to her is that the worry and the anxiety was so huge, and she had intrusive thoughts that she just couldn't get rid of. And she describes it as an invisible weight. So it's her story and how she managed to get through that. No allergies, but the worry, because it's being talked about all the time and daily. More and more and more people are reporting allergies. So that's her story. And then the second person had an allergy herself. She tried to overcome, she tried to solve, but the allergy was so big, she ended up having to ditch her career, to give up the career that she loved, and she had to change careers. And so that's another story of how somebody worked their way through it and came to the solution that suits. Then the third person is somebody who had to rebrand, and she had no support. She had no customer care. From a medical point of view, she didn't get much help. And the huge cost of actually having to do that, but it was something she felt she had to do. And she has, and she's come out the other end. And then the fourth person, there are 4 nail professionals here. So the 4th nail professional is somebody that had a huge allergy herself, but she was the only breadwinner in the family with 3 young children. And the whole situation made her really ill. And how did she get through this? It took a long time, but she did. So that's her story. And then the 5th person is actually a client who's got a shocking story to tell, who had the most awful situation that she had to live through. There's a happy ending to her story too, because she did find the solution and she's fine now. But these are real stories from real people on what happened to them, how they managed it, how they got through, and that they did find that light at the end of the tunnel. And then to finish up with all of these stories, I invited the wonderful Lee Pycroft, who's somebody I've known for many years, because she is a makeup artist, but she sort of changed her career focus. And for many years, she's been a registered psychotherapist. So she watched all of these stories And I have a chat with her because she's able to explain what's happening. Like, for example, the intrusive thoughts, that invisible weight that one of the guests talked about. And she gives us some tools on how to manage this situation. You know, if you feel the anxiety climbing, what to do? How do you cope with it? How do you manage it? And how do you get through it? So the second video ends with some wonderful advice from the lovely Lee, who will be able to give you just ways of getting through this, because I'm sure each of those stories will resonate with some of you. So thank you for watching. Get a hanky ready because some of them are sad, but just remember that these are stories of hope. They're stories that there is a solution. It's a massive challenge, but there's always an answer there. You just have to find the way through and find that answer, because there is one. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy and appreciate the bravery of these 5 people who are sharing some of the darkest times that they've been through, but there's a happy ending. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce you to my first guest. Now, this is a nail professional who qualified about 3 years ago, and she is somebody that has been lucky enough to not actually have any unwanted reactions, both for herself or for any of her clients. But she has been diagnosed with mental health issues, and I'd like her to explain to you the impact of what this situation has had on her, and what the impact it's had on her personally, and the impact it's had on her business. So I'm going to go over to you. Obviously, she's anonymous, as most of my guests will be, and we won't be mentioning any brand names. This is just real stories with real people in real life about this situation that we're having to deal with at the moment. So over to you.
Thank you. So I guess I'll start at the beginning of how it all started for me. So I qualified just before the pandemic, and I started using a few brands, and was using them mainly on myself, because obviously during lockdown we couldn't, do any clients. So I selected a brand that I thought, to be fair, my education wasn't completely full. And I think that my lack of education really contributed to me falling into the trap of using non-standard gel polishes that I think people should not use, if possible. And I was using that on myself for maybe a year or so. And then the pandemic sort of lifted, and I was using product on other people. I then came across some information via social media about, reactions, and this, I think, shows my lack of education, and how the gap that there is in nail professional education. I was qualified and didn't really know these things, that I'd never even seen a reaction to gel polish before. I'd never seen a reaction to, I knew about MMA and things like that with acrylic, but I didn't realize the extent of this, that, if people react to gel polish, this impacts, not only their nails, but the rest of their body. If they go to the dentist and need certain work done, they might not be able to have it. If they break a bone and certain glues need to be used, or, various medical things need to be used, then they maybe can't have that either, or it makes procedures more difficult. The impact it has is huge. And I think once I saw that, it just set it set Kill Bill sirens in my ears ringing. And I started to have quite a lot of sleepless nights over it. So I have OCD, I'm diagnosed with OCD anyway, and generalized anxiety disorder. And I started to get quite a lot of what are called intrusive thoughts. So thoughts that you don't particularly want to have, where you ruminate over the same thing over and over again. It's sort of like, I describe it like a whirlpool of thoughts that just enter your head at any point. And I started to get these about this specific problem constantly, all of the time. I found it really hard to sleep because it was in my head. You know, what if I've done this to someone else? I mean, if it happens to me, it happens to me. And, you know, that is one thing. But damaging someone's body when they've come to me and trusted me to take care of them in that way, you know, to look after their hands and their nails, and I've contributed to harming them, that sort of shook me to my core, and it still does, because as we know with these reactions, you may not get one at the time of using the product, but you are it I guess it's sort of like a life raft. It can only take so much, and then eventually it breaks, you know. You can only it's a ticking time bomb. It might happen eventually. And just the thought that I could have done that to someone really just completely mentally took a toll on me, and it still does. um I think the way out of this really is education, and having better, higher quality education, and making sure that we impress upon people the importance of doing their research and understanding where their products come from, what is in their products, you know, things like HEMA, HPMA, IBOA. These chemicals are not necessary to use in nail products. And although there are safe levels of these chemicals, the fact that SDS sheets are being falsely created or manufactured, it doesn't help, and it makes it all the more difficult. And for me, I just sort of, I don't, I think if I ever did have a reaction, I would have to stop doing nails, because I just think the shame and the guilt around it is terrifying. I it's really like this invisible weight that just bears down on you. And I understand that I'm probably more susceptible to this level of worry because of my mental health conditions. But I think most techs who do become aware of this would say that they feel the same to some extent, that it's this sort of anxiety that you just can't get away from. Um, and I think because of gaps in our education, we don't we don't realize, you know, that these things are even possible. And obviously it's been a much more recent development. You know, UV product has been out since what, maybe like the 80s. um
Earlier than that, yeah.
yeah. And this is a very recent phenomenon, this level of allergy, because these allergies are not, they are they're pretty aggressive. You know, you see the photos of people with their nails completely eroded and lifted, and you know, it takes months. You know, sometimes people don't even get their nails fully back, and that is not only such a heavy weight on the client, but such a heavy weight on the tech. You know, we're supposed to be professionals. We are being entrusted to help care for somebody. And the fact that there are, you know, this level of reaction going on because of all sorts of, you know, non-standard practices, like not matching lamps to product, not, you know, just, and the products themselves, it's
Mm.
it's it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's completely outrageous. Of course, as techs, we have a responsibility to do our due diligence and to find the best product that we think works for us. But it's everywhere now, I think.
It is everywhere. And, you know, as I said at the beginning of the little intro, at the beginning of this whole video, you don't know what you don't know. And how do you find the answer if you don't know the question? And it's been proved, there's been a lot of research now, and it's been proved that one of the issues, there are many, but one of the issues is the amount of poor education that's available. And when you come in like you have, in 2019, when you come in, you do your research and you think, oh, that sounds like a good course, I'll do it. And how do you know if it is? So, but you've obviously done a huge amount of due diligence ever since.
I've been trying to, because I think the way out of this is education.
Yeah.
It is making sure that we are using the resources that we have. We're very lucky in a lot of ways to have the internet, because if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have found out about this.
Mm.
There are
true.
There are
Good and it's
bountiful
bad, isn't it? The
resources.
internet has its good side, but it has its bad side as well.
It does.
Mm.
It does. And I think it is, while having your eyes opened is incredibly scary, and it has had just, a devastating impact on me and on many, many others. It is reassuring to know that there are professionals like yourself out there trying to get, the correct information out to techs, trying to equip us with all the knowledge that we could need to, find our way out of this situation, because we have to do better for ourselves, for our clients, and for our community. I think
and there is a way out. There is. I mean,
yes.
That's as much as I want to get the message as far and wide as possible. I also want to get the message out that there is a way out. There is a way of preventing this. And the fact that the impact that it's had on you when you already had anxiety issues is quite horrific. I mean, did you consider at any time that you've got to stop working, in this career?
Yeah, I think there have been 3 points at which I very seriously considered, and by very seriously considered, I mean interspersed with the lockdowns. There was at one point where I did actually list all of my kit on Facebook groups just to sell off, and for the products that were, non-standard and I wouldn't want people using, I did bin everything when I found out. I think just those 3 times in a career that's been as short as mine, for this reason. It wasn't for any other reason. I love this work. I love this job. It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I've loved nails and the industry for years before I became a tech. Giving up on the thing that you love most is not a decision people take lightly, and that was serious for me. It was because I had to weigh against, could I mentally keep on doing this? Could I go round in these circles over and over again? And would that guilt and that shame that I feel ever lift? And I didn't know that it would. But it is, I am making progress with it, because I am, like I said, trying to, use resources to educate my way out of it and know how to deal with these things and know where I went wrong. And for friends that are techs, if they talk to me about these things, I'm very open about it, because I think we have to share what's going on, because I think it just is exacerbated in silence. It just gets worse, it just builds, and it's really important to
That's
talk.
a good soundbite, that exacerbated in silence. I like that. Well, it's true though, isn't it? The more secret it's kept, because it is a major problem and we don't want to scare off our clients, but the more secret it stays, the worse it's going to get. So it's great that you're doing that and you're being open about it and sharing your information too.
Yeah, because it just, you think it's only you. You think you're the only one that's experiencing this. And, like we said, I haven't had, touch wood, a reaction to date. But for those that have, I want those nail technicians to know that they're not they're not a bad nail tech, you
No.
know, that this is not just them. They're not alone in it, and it's really important that we get rid of the shame that is surrounding this, because, you know, keeping it silent and not talking about it does just make it worse for people. And I think it weighs on people's mental health, and that's the first thing you sort of learn in therapy, that it's really important to talk. And when you talk and you share information, you learn coping strategies and how to deal with these things. And, you know, this is not a hobby, this is people's livelihoods. And that is no small thing, you know.
I think you should become a nail counselor,
Yeah.
because you're so good at explaining what and why and how, and you know, the importance of sharing, and that people aren't alone. It's amazing, actually, you know, that you've had all of this to deal with, and yet you come to those amazing conclusions, which is so admirable. It really is. It's quite amazing, actually. Well done. I mean, that sounds a little pathetic, really, but you know, you've gone through it and you can see the way out, and that's the important thing. You know, you've had some of your answers. You've probably got some more answers that you still need, but you know, you can see a way out. But it is a really shocking situation, isn't it, that I don't think is really understood enough.
Yeah. And I think one of my best friends is a makeup artist, and I told her about this, and she was shocked, because, you know, as beauty professionals, we just we don't think these things can happen. But the
No.
truth of working with nails is that we work with chemicals.
Mm.
We work with chemicals, you know. This is not a small thing. This is actually quite important. And no, it's not, you know, we shouldn't all be having to get chemistry degrees, but we should be understanding the basic workings of, you know, things like, I would love to have been taught, you know, how to read an SDS sheet, why they're important, how to know how to source good product, what makes a company, you know, that you go with for your brand trustworthy. All
Yeah.
of these things,
and
you know.
and it was missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're paying the price for it.
Yeah, again, this is education. I mean, that, you know, in the research that's being done, there are a couple of very obvious reasons for this situation we're in, and one very high on the list is lack of good education. And you
Yeah.
know, that can come with regulation, and regulation is coming, but not soon enough to have stopped this.
Yeah.
But it is coming. But yeah, education is very, very high on the list. And as I said, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
Anyway, thank you so much. Is there we need to close this now, but is there any
Yeah.
last thing you want to just add before we finish? If not, don't worry.
I think the main thing I would say to people is seek education, seek good quality education from leading, you know, industry leaders like yourself, and don't suffer in silence. Even if you haven't had a reaction, you know, the same way as me, talk to
Yeah.
people about it.
Yeah, and I'm always, you know, I answer lots and lots of questions every single day. Obviously, there's the FNP that is there to help. So there are lots of people out there, fellow technicians, and you know, other social media groups that are more than willing to help. And the only thing I would like to add to that is be careful who you listen to.
Yes.
Because with social media, you don't know if the person who's giving you their opinion, whether they know enough. And is it opinion or is it a fact? And only listen to facts that can be proved.
Yes. Do
Okay.
your research.
Do your research. Do your research. You've got the internet. When I started in all this, I had to go to the library. I'd stay there for hours and not even know what book to look for. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. You're absolutely on the right path. I'm so happy for you that you haven't had a reaction, and neither of your clients. I'm so sorry that you've had, you know, the anxiety that has gone with it. But you know, you're on the right path now, and you do have the solution.
Yes.
And thank you so much for giving your time to us and
No
sharing
problem.
your
Thank you for
story.
having me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stop recording now.
Great.
So I'd now like to introduce you to Alison. And Alison has her story to tell. And she is a nail professional that developed an allergy that was so severe that she had to completely give up her whole career. Fortunately, there's a happy ending to that, but nevertheless, you know, people that choose to go into this career don't expect to get into the situation where they're forced to give it up. So welcome to Alison. Thank you so much for giving your time and telling your story, sharing your story, because I really want people to hear real stories from real people and the impact that this situation that we're having to deal with, what it means to individuals. So over to you, Alison.
Hi, thank you for including me. I'm 54 now, so I came back into the nail industry probably in the last 5 years after doing it from leaving school, and decided to do some retraining, etc., and getting back into nails. Unfortunately, in the meantime, I used to go and get my nails done at local salons, etc. And I started to notice this awful itchy, blistery around my fingers, and then it started to spread, and it got to the point where it was so bad that it went across from my index finger right across to my thumb. It was cracked and bleeding to the point that I had to wear gloves when I was anywhere, and I couldn't use a knife and fork. I couldn't write. I couldn't hold a pen. It's probably one of the most painful things that I've endured, really, because you've got a lot of nerves in your fingers as well, haven't you? And it just wouldn't go away. So I went to my GP, who said, it's probably, what do you do for a living? I told him, it's probably the products you're using. You've just got to stop using them. And it was quite as simple as that for a GP. And I was like, well, it's not quite that simple. I've invested a lot of money, a lot of time into this career, because obviously sort of going back a little bit, I'd actually opened my own shop and set up my own nail salon and beauty salon. And of course, as I was doing my own nails, this allergy continued and continued and continued. And so, of course, that's when I went to my GP and said, look, what's happening? What can I do? And that was when they said, you've just got to stop. You've got to stop what you're doing. And I said, well, it's not quite that simple. It's my job. And there was quite a lack of understanding, to be fair, from my GP, and not much empathy. So anyway, the upshot of it all was, luckily, they sent me to a dermatologist, which I'm very grateful for, at a local hospital in, I think it was 2020, I went to finally, and had all the patches on my back. I think there was about 50 odd little patches. And literally as soon as they put one of the ingredients that I'm allergic to on my back, I said straight away, whatever you've just put on my back, I can feel it already. And it was horrific, because I'd got all these, I mean, not all 52 flared up, you know, I'm not saying that that's the case, but it wasn't very nice. You're not allowed to shower, and etc., etc. There's a lot of things that you don't think about when you get an allergy, about finding out what the allergies are. Anyway, so the upshot of all that was that they gave me a list of ingredients, chemicals that I'm now allergic to. Unfortunately for me, practically every brand that you see out there has one or more of these ingredients in. And as you probably all know this already, once you have an allergy to something, that's it for life. It never goes away. You can't cure it. As soon as you touch that item with even with gloved hands, if I use gloves, I still get an allergy, because I thought that was the other answer. Gloves in a bottle, you know, anything like that, something that you can put on your hands to protect them. No, 2 layers of gloves, no, it still goes straight through them. So they gave me this long list of items that I'm allergic to, of chemicals I'm allergic to. And unfortunately, one or two of those items means that, for example, I can't have normal dentistry. So when I go and see my dentist, which obviously I haven't been because of pandemic for a while, so when I go back, I've got to tell them these ingredients because they can't use some of the products that they use. I assume the glue-based products, etc. They can't use them on me anymore. So that makes it difficult for them and difficult for me, of course. They also, on these lists of ingredients, it tells you what they are and whether you're sensitive to them or you're allergic to them. But it also tells you on this list things like I say, like dentistry. And unfortunately for me, joint replacements are a factor. So I cannot now go and have a normal knee, hip or whatever other joint replacement because I have to have a specialised one because of the products that are in the knee replacements. That's just how they're made. So I can't have one of those. So that has, I know that's not affecting me right now, but in the future it may mean that I may have to wait longer, or who knows. I don't know the implications of it, but it's certainly a factor for me. And as I'm getting older, it is a little bit of a concern. When I went to see the dermatologist, he also explained that once you have a flare-up, that flare-up will not go for 3 months. So it's a 3-month cycle. Oh. So if I touch anything that I'm allergic to, it will not clear up for about 3 months. So he said to me, obviously, he said the only way you can get around this in Korea is to try things, you know, obviously look at the ingredients, but they're not always on the list, you know, they're not always there on the product list. But bear in mind that if you try something for 3 months, you're going to have to stop what you're doing for 3 months and let it heal. Otherwise, you'll never know which product it is that's causing that allergy. So unfortunately for me, it got too expensive because I was trying all different brands and just getting allergies all the time, and I was getting down, I was getting depressed because it's painful, it itches, and it's life-changing. To be fair, I'm not you know, sugarcoating this. It is life-changing. I now, thankfully for me, I had to give that career up, but I did find another career. Not everybody's that fortunate, but it meant that I had to leave something that I loved. I absolutely love doing it. I love art, and nail art was my speciality. And it's really, it actually is making me feel a little bit emotional, to be fair. Because I used to get a lot of comments about how excellent my nail art was, and I just don't do it anymore. I'm too frightened to be in that position again, where I can't use my hands for brushing my teeth, combing my hair, you know, the things that you take your hands so much for granted. It's unreal. The other thing I noticed was when I came back into the industry, I thought it would be a good idea to retrain a little bit, or just refresh, you know, do some refresher training. And I was quite horrified for an accredited course that some of the teachers, lecturers, whatever you want to call them, were showing us how to do things without gloves and putting things on the back of the hands, wiping polish with the fingers, acrylic, touching it with the fingers, modeling and using, you know, literally rolling up acrylic in the fingers and showing you how to do 3D without gloves. And, you know, I find that really upsetting, because if that, I mean, that wasn't me, but if I'd got an allergy through that, and that's life-changing, you've got to start properly. You can't start with that, you know, knowledge, not having that knowledge that gloves are so important in this business, so important.
And
Well,
that,
like I said,
that was at a proper course, a proper training course.
it was an accredited course. Yes, yes.
Accredited. Was it accredited or regulated? I mean, there were good and bad in both, but
regulated. Yeah, regulated. Yes, so it was a regulated course.
The responsibility on teachers, you know, it's where it starts, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I pulled her up on it and said, you're not wearing gloves, you know, you're touching products, you shouldn't be showing students. And all she said was, don't anybody do this, but I can't wear gloves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right then. Just show everybody else.
Yeah, and all I said to the students were, look, this is my experience. I showed them, I've still got marks on my hands where I still can't get rid of this allergy, and this is back from, like I say, 2020, and I am still suffering with it now. It's not gone, and I've not used nail products for such a long time, so it's not that. But to her, I said, look, please, you know, if you take one thing away from this, please get used to wearing gloves. I know they're a pain, I get that, it's hard work, it's much harder, but once you get used to them, it's no different. You feel odd without them on. You know, you really, there's quality gloves out there that feel like second skin, and you can get used to them. So please, if you get anything from this, wear gloves. Do all, you know, use all your PPE, because it's so important. It's so important. Anyway, sorry, I sort of digressed a bit there.
It's a real story from a real person. You know, it's advice from somebody that knows, really knows.
Yeah. The endings, I suppose, the good side of all this, and for me, I am extremely lucky, and I know how lucky I am that I managed to find a career doing something that I love in the art world. And I've now got a repair shop like the one on the TV, so I'm restoring ceramics and teddy bears, and I absolutely adore it.
I might have a little job for you. Yes, sorry, go on. Fabulous. I love that program.
Yeah,
I love what you're doing.
It's wonderful, and it's nice to still have the clients that love what they see, the end result. You know, it's a wonderful experience. So I know I'm lucky, and I just really, you know, want to share that it's so important to keep yourself safe. You know, if you're watching this, anybody, safety is, I know it doesn't seem important, and you think, oh, I'll be all right, it'll not happen to me, but once it does, there's no going back, ever.
This is the point, isn't it? It's almost like a ticking time bomb, isn't it? You might get lucky, but you don't know, and then there's no going back.
No, there are people out there that do it daily and they've not had a reaction, and that's excellent. I'm happy. But you just do not know, and it's there's no, you know, there's no reason to it. It's not saying that people with this condition will get contact dermatitis. It just happens, you know. And
also, interestingly, because some people think that the pandemic has made this happen, that it's not true. Well, first of all, it way predates the start of the pandemic anyway, but your story proves it, because this started for you in 2020. Well, that was right at the very beginning of the pandemic, wasn't it? And it had already been going on for a while before that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, a long time, because obviously for some reason I didn't put two and two together. I didn't put the fact that round my cuticles, and you know, everything was itchy around my fingers, and I was scratching and then rubbing, you know, trying not to scratch it, and I'd come away and all around my fingers would be red, almost immediately would be red. You know, and I know it's bad practice, but I was wearing gloves one time, and this was before I was diagnosed with contact dermatitis, and I was wearing the gloves, and I know we do it, you know, you get something and you've got something on your brush and you've got excess on it, and you wipe it on the back of your hand or your gloved hand, which I had. I took the glove off straight away because I thought, ooh, I did that automatically. I took the glove off, and I am not, this is no word of a lie, I had 2 stripes down my hand, exactly where I'd wiped that, and I literally,
through the glove,
through the glove.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, yours is a story that proves so many things, that so many bits of information that, you know, some of us are really trying hard to get out. But it is true, it does happen. And it is any sort of contact that's important. When you've got it, there's no going back. And the fact that, you know, your medical practitioner, your dermatologist has told you that it does have an impact on certain things for the rest of your life.
Yes.
I think so many people that don't believe that that's true, and it is true, isn't it? I mean, you know, that you've experienced it yourself.
I mean, the dermatologist actually told me that rising cases that he sees through people that are coming through the nail industry is in the last, I mean, that was 2020, so I'm assuming that there'll be more, because there'll be lots more people that have become allergic since I went in 2020. You know, it was the beginning of 2020 as well. And he was quite shocked at the amount of people that were coming through his doors with this condition because of products.
Because of nail products. And you know, I think again, you know, your story shows that it's prevention that is key. You know, because if you don't get it in the first place, then you don't have to try and find the ways to counteract it, the way to protect, because you might get lucky and you may find a way to protect yourself from it again, but the chances are you may not, like you know, even with gloves and everything you tried and trying different products, if you hadn't have had it in the first place, you'd have been fine, and just keep preventing it. But once you've got it, it's the challenges can be impossible, as you've discovered. And you've given that a career that you've had from school.
Yeah, and I know this is trivial, but I can't have my nails painted anymore.
No, you can't. Now, are you okay with ordinary nail polish?
I can use, yes, and I can use, obviously I won't mention, but I can use one brand. I found one brand that I'm all right with, but I couldn't do that commercially. It's not viable. It's just not. I can't use acrylic, so you know, that's the other thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, Alison, it's not trivial, because you know that this is all about how this can affect the mental health of people, or the anxiety. And actually, if you love having your nails done, you love having them done, and you don't like to see your hands without your nails looking gorgeous. So it's not trivial. It's really important to the individual.
Yeah.
Because you see your hands all the time, don't you? They're in front of your face. And if you don't like the way they look, that will affect you, you know, how you feel that day.
It does, you're right. It does. It has affected my, I mean, I do suffer with depression, and it really, I mean, I cried and cried over this, because, you know, not just for the fact that I'd invested so much money coming back into the industry in 2021, but also that it's something that I love. And, you know, you feel it's not a failure, I suppose, but it I don't know how to describe it really. It just feels.
But it was your career. It was your chosen career, wasn't it? And it earned your living. You know, it was, you chose the career, and it paid you money. You know, that's what we go to work for, isn't it? It's to earn money, to live a life. So it changed your life in many ways.
Yes, and I think because I was in a civil service career for a while, and I wanted to come back into the industry because, you know, it was a completely different industry. I was so excited, you know, and to find out very, very quickly that you can't do this. It's not going to work. No.
Well, it's a horrible story, Alison. It's terrible, and you know, it's dreadful that it happened to you. But I'm not going to say you're one of the lucky ones, but you are lucky in that you did find another career, and it's something that you enjoy. But it would have been nice if you'd have came to that conclusion yourself, rather than being forced into it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, it's so important that people really do believe that all these things are happening, and it's got to change. We can't let this keep going like this, because we won't have an industry in a few years' time. If it does, there'll be no one left. or there'll either be no one left, or all the products will be banned because they're harming people. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. And I do have a ceramic thing that I think I might have to send you to get fixed, because I love that repair shop, and it's great that you've had that idea and you're making it work for you. So thank you so much. But I really appreciate your time. Thanks, Alison.
Thanks. That's okay.
Hello, so I want to welcome another one of my guests that has a story to tell about the allergy situation. So welcome to Amelia. Now, Amelia has been qualified for around about 9 years. And for the vast majority of those years, she didn't have any problem whatsoever. She had a clientele, she was working, everything was great. And then in the last couple of years, things started to go wrong. And this is a guest whose story I want her to tell you, but she is somebody that has had a problem and has had to rebrand. So over to Amelia, who is going to tell you her story. So Amelia, thank you for joining us. So tell us your story about the horrible allergy situation that you've had to deal with.
Yeah, so I, like you said, qualified in 2013 in nails. Been doing it obviously for all that time, no issues at all, until May 2021, when I started to see a reaction on one of my clients. Stopped using any gel polish or anything on them. Tried it again a couple months later, exactly the same thing happened. So it confirmed my suspicions of it being an allergy. So they can't have anything on their nails until they've had obviously a test. So I know exactly what ingredients it is. And I saw a lot of things on social media because I did a lot of research into it because I'd never seen anything like that before. Normally when an allergy, my understanding of an allergy was it would happen straight away when the product's kind of gone straight on, not after you've been having it for a long period of time. So I did a lot of research into it, saw on social media about this massive allergy issue, and then I looked a lot more into it, saw lots of different things about different brands, and then I kind of left it for a little while because nothing else had happened, nobody else was having any issues. Obviously the open and shutting of lockdown, I was working for bits of it, well, not working for some of it, so maybe that's why I didn't see it on other clients, because obviously I wasn't doing their treatments. And then, yeah, I then had a reaction in February this year on my nails, and I took them all off straight away. Nail separation started to happen. My hands were getting really itchy at work. Yeah, so then I went to the doctor. He kind of dismissed what I was saying. He said, oh no, it's not contact dermatitis. It's not bad enough on your hands to be contact dermatitis. But obviously from my training and seeing what I've seen on social media, I knew that it was either the start of it or a start of an allergy of some description. So I decided to go private to a dermatologist, had to wait a month for an appointment with them. He confirmed it's most likely an allergy for myself. And I'm still currently waiting for my patch testing to be done. I really want it to be done before my wedding in September, because obviously I make everyone else's nails look pretty, so I want my nails to be lovely and beautiful, especially when everyone's going to be looking at my hands on the wedding day. So yeah, it's all just a little bit mad,
a little bit tricky. So so two things here. First of all, how did you find going to your GP? I mean, was he sympathetic? Did he understand? I mean, it sounds like not, but what was your impression of your GP?
Well, it was very difficult because where they're not seeing people face to face, they would only speak to me over the phone. So they couldn't actually physically see in person what my hands looked like. It was done based on pictures and what I was telling them. They prescribed me a steroid cream to help with the itching. But because I'm only working 1 day a week, I decided to not use it because most of the time it was fine. But when I described, obviously, the nail separation, everything to them, because I was still very early stages and it hadn't got really bad, they were very dismissive about what I was saying. They were a bit like, well, if it's just a little bit, it's fine. If it's just your nails, it's fine. So that, yeah, they were just very dismissive. They did eventually refer me on the NHS, but I've still not even had a phone call about an appointment. And that list, I've been on it for about 4 months now. So
Wow.
Yeah, I decided to go the private route, which still is taking quite a long time, but it's costing a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, GP stands for general practitioner. So you sort of, a general practitioner can't be an expert in every subject. So, you know, they're going to be experts in things that they see most commonly. But this is sort of a relatively new situation. And I do know that so many GPs, they see it as, well, you just want pretty nails, so get over it.
Yeah, it's exactly that, yeah.
Yeah, and I also know that in the UK, the NHS, the dermatologists on the NHS, there's a massive shortage. And then because of the pandemic, there are other skin situations that are happening. So, you know, put the shortage of dermatologists along with more people having skin situations, the wait does seem to be pretty horrific. And the fact that you haven't even heard back is a bit pants.
Yeah, it's not great.
So you did get an appointment with a dermatologist, but you've had to pay privately for that.
Yes, I had to hunt for probably 2 weeks in order to find anyone in my local area that even understood what I was asking for.
Yeah.
Because I knew specifically I needed acrylate allergy testing.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew exactly that that's exactly what I needed specifically. I phoned up probably 20 different dermatologists through, I'm on a border, so I spoke to both counties, everyone in those counties, and I found one person that understood what I was saying. Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, we have a very challenging situation in our nail sector, and it's not helped by this situation, is it?
No.
Right, you know, GPs, who's your first port of call, and then if you have to go privately, people that actually understand what you're asking for. So you have an allergy. Have you had your testing yet?
No, I've got my testing in June, so I'm waiting for that. That was the earliest they could get me in,
even privately.
and I had my first consultant appointment in March.
April, May, June. So 3 to 4 months wait even for a private appointment.
Yeah.
But I know you need this for your business, but you know there's also you behind all of this, and you're getting married in September. So you do have the appointment, and you will have the results in time.
Yes.
To get your nails looking gorgeous. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. That's provided I'm not allergic to every single ingredient.
Well, to think positively.
Yes,
I'm sure
exactly
there'll be
something.
I'm sure there'll be something out there that doesn't have the ingredients that you're going to turn out allergic to. I mean, that, you know, there are the ones that are the most common. Hopefully, the ones that are most common allergens will be on your list. And there are
Yeah.
plenty of brands that don't have those most common, which is Hema, Iboa, you know, that you know the ones. So
Yeah.
so are you still working now? How are you coping with working with an
So
allergy?
I am working 1 day a week at the moment. I came back from maternity leave in November, and I want to start upping my hours again, but I can't really until I know exactly what's going on, if I can even continue doing the treatments, or how much I'm going to have to fork out on specific gloves and specific equipment so that I can protect myself against the allergy. Or it's kind of all up in the air until I know exactly what I've reacted to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't
meantime,
earn any money until then.
which, you know, maternity leave, then there's no money when you're self-employed, and then you're
Yeah.
ready to go back and you want to up your days and you can't.
Yeah.
So
Exactly
during this time, have you been doing your research and have you been finding some brands that you're hoping might work for you?
So I have completely rebranded. I am using a new brand. It's not a new brand, but it's new to me. I've been using them since my reaction. When I had my reaction, within a week, I got rid of all my stuff that I was using before. So all of that money I'd lost, and I had to fork out a lot of money to try and get a decent color range for the clients so that they weren't unhappy about me getting rid of my previous brand. And
oh, can I hear your baby crying?
You can. I might have to go.
We'll speed up because that's obviously quite a new baby, isn't it?
Yeah, she's 8.5 months now. So I might just have to go pick her up and then she can play on the floor next to me, if that's all right.
Well, we'll sort of speed it up, and then you can go and give her proper attention.
Okay.
So you've rebranded already.
Yes.
You can't up your days yet until you find out whether your new brand is going to be safe for you.
Yes, I'm hoping that it is going to be okay, because I don't want to have to rebrand again. I can't go through all of that again, the humiliation to clients, to tell them again that I have to rebrand. I just feel like they'd lose trust in me. The fact that I'm then going to have to rebrand again, they're going to think that I don't know what I'm doing. They'll think that I don't really know what I'm saying, even though I'm trying to obviously get something that's suitable for me to use. Yeah, I'm just hoping and praying really that this brand is not going to be an issue.
So, I mean, you've had a pretty horrible time, haven't you? And with
Yeah.
the whole pregnancy, the whole new baby, you know, all of the stuff that comes with that, as lovely as it is, it's not necessarily easy, is it? It's the most wonderful thing in the world, but it's not easy.
No.
And so you know, was the anxiety, you know, did you suffer from anxiety? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know, it does sound like a pretty horrible time.
Yeah, I've always suffered with anxiety, but never. When I had my reaction, probably for 2 weeks, I wasn't really eating very much. I constantly was just thinking about it, researching it 24/7, constantly checking my nails every day, taking pictures of them every day, like asking on social media every single day, what do I think this is, in the hopes that it wasn't an allergy, but obviously knew in my gut that 9 times out of 10 it's going to be.
So can you see? I won't keep you much longer. Oh, mind you, she's gone quiet now, isn't she? I won't keep you much longer. So after all that, after, you know, several years absolutely being fine, then changing a brand, and then, you know, things started to niggle, things started to happen. You had a client with a reaction, you had your reaction. Since
Yes.
then, you've had to do the whole doctor thing and get your patch test. And obviously you want to wind up your wedding as well for it to be a nice time.
Yeah.
Right now, as of today, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see there is a solution to this?
I'm not sure. I'm hoping that my allergy testing is going to come back with a good
The
result.
answer, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am basically banking on that, hoping that that's going to come back, hopefully telling me that I'm not allergic, but that's just me in denial. Or at least coming back with an ingredient that's I'm easily going to be able to find a brand without those ingredients.
And in your original education or any other education that you've done since then, were you made aware of this fact of what allergies are and there should be no skin contact, and was that part of your training?
Yes, yes and no. It was, but very, very briefly. They never ever went into allergies to the depth that I want to go into now. They kind of just said that if somebody's never had gel polish before and then they have it and they obviously have swollen fingers or itchy or redness or kind of any of those standard allergy signs within 24 to 48 hours, then it means they're allergic and you need to remove it. But never really, obviously I knew that us as technicians, we could get contact dermatitis from overexposure to the products if you don't wear gloves and kind of all of that, but never did they make it very clear that you could get allergies from wearing gel polish for a long period of time.
Well, when you trained, which was 9 years ago, it wasn't as much of a situation as it is now.
No,
because it's way less than 10 years that this situation has exploded into where we are today.
Yeah, it makes me feel very out of my depth. I feel like I'm training again.
Yeah,
because it's so unknown to me. Yeah,
and that from your point of view, that and you've got to face clients. We do actually face-to-face clients, don't we? Our job is we sit in front of a client, right in front of their face. We're not even looking at them in a mirror from behind them. We're like right there in their face, and I know exactly what you mean, that you don't want your clients to think that you don't know what you're doing because you're having to rebrand again. I totally get that, and that's a hard thing to do, isn't it? Because they need confidence in you, and you need confidence in yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly that. I just, if I have to rebrand again, I don't even know if I'd continue doing it.
Oh, don't say that, Amelia. There will be an answer, and there are a lot of people out there, me being one, that is always there to help. There are a lot of people that actually want to help, and if it's from a business perspective on how you deal with your clients with this, there are an awful lot of amazing business coaches out there that will help you with this. If it's from a science point of view or a medical point of view, then certainly I could go a long way towards it to help. And there are groups on social media that actually do just want to help. So think positively.
Yes, I'm trying to. The only way I've stopped being as stressed as what I was is because I know that I've changed brands. I know that the brand that I'm using is a decent brand. I know that everybody seems to like the colour, so my clients are happy, so that's calmed those nerves. I'm just hoping that if I put them on myself, I can use it.
You can use it, and then you'll be more confident with it, won't you?
Yes, 100%, because I like practicing on myself, and I like trialing new nail art stuff on myself and new trends on myself, and if I can't do that, then it kind of makes me not really as interested in it as what I once was.
The best way to trial is trialing it on yourself, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because you're the one that's wearing it. You're the one that knows whether you're giving it a hard time or whether you're being gentle. You've got a baby, so you're giving it a hard time.
Yeah.
And if it decides your life,
Yeah. Yeah, my
Anyway.
nails are just atrocious at the moment, so I'm just hoping that I can have pretty ones soon.
You will. There will be an answer. There will, absolutely. And you know, if the answer, the worst case scenario is that you have to wear nail polish.
Yeah.
You know, we've managed with nail polish for like 70 years. So, you know, that, I know that's not what you want, but you know, that the worst case scenario is lots of great oil, lots of TLC, and you might have to wear nail polish. Well,
yeah,
you know,
I'll have to do them in the morning.
Exactly, you can do them in the morning, but there will be a solution. There will be, and I want you to go and look after your baby now.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Olivia. Your story
Okay.
about the whole rebranding issue is, I mean, you know, it's scary, it's worrying. You haven't seen the light at the end of the tunnel just yet, but I'm sure it's going to be there. So please, from my point of view, please let me know what happens in June.
Yes, I will.
And I'll be very happy to help, you know, if you need any sort of help with finding the brands that will work for you. So thank you so much for giving your time and telling your story.
Okay, thank you.
I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's all right.